Now at 6, nationwide protests over President Trump's policies. Finally, those reach Alaska. How the president responds as he defends his actions and cabinet picks. And the ASD superintendent speaks out. Hear what updates he has for the future. Budget deficits and other major topics continue to be a problem. And a popular father-son duo will not finish the Yukon Quest Alaska. Why the Mackeys say they had no choice but to stop.
And snow's on the way from Nome to Fairbanks. I'll let you know how much to expect, and we'll have a sneak peek to the weekend forecast.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
An Anchorage murder trial started today for a man accused of killing an employee at his apartment complex after learning his release would not be renewed. Jesse Jones is accused of killing Josiah Gerker in the last leasing office of the Alpine Apartments in October of 2023 after getting a notice on his door that morning. Now, another employee who was in the office told jurors that Jones was frustrated he and his pregnant girlfriend were being asked to leave. She says she hid in her office as he pulled out a gun and shot Gerker.
I turned, I can see that he pointed the gun and tried to shoot. The gun jammed, and he continued to take out the clip, put it back in the gun. At that time, I can see Josiah backing up still. And that's when he lets out 5 shots.
An attorney for Jones admits the shooting, but says his client didn't go into the office with the intention of killing someone and shouldn't be charged with first-degree murder. If you have been looking for more snow, it's time to head to Nome or Fairbanks. Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry joins us now. Melissa, how much are you expecting?
Yeah, Rebecca, we'll see about 2 to 4 inches near Fairbanks, out west across St. Lawrence Island. Heavier snow there, looking at 5 to 8 inches on the way. Moving through overnight tonight into tomorrow. That is where we have a blizzard warning in effect. Also, a winter weather advisory in effect right near Eielson Air Force Base. This is because of freezing rain tonight. We've already seen a little freezing drizzle in the area. So if you're driving in this area, especially there on the Richardson Highway, do be prepared for very slick road conditions tonight into tomorrow morning. Temperatures right now in the teens for much of the interior. Not seeing much of that snow yet, but it is on the way overnight tonight. We are also going to see that snow moving through Nome. It'll be a rain-snow mix in St. Paul, and then heavy rain and high winds as you head through the western Aleutians. Otherwise, high pressure is fully loaded across South Central. You can see those beautiful sunny skies in Anchorage tonight. Temperatures holding in the mid-teens. We're going to see that sunshine holding on into tomorrow as well. High temperatures will be back into the mid-20s for Anchorage. You can be prepared for snow showers in Fairbanks. Temperatures back into the upper teens, just below freezing in Juneau. Mostly sunny for you there, though. And we will see mostly cloudy conditions in Bethel with high temperatures holding just below that freezing mark. Coming up after the break, here in just a little bit, I'll have a closer look at your weekend forecast.
Thank you, Melissa. A $100 million deficit in the Anchorage School District budget means that cuts to school and staff programs have to happen. Joe Allgood tells us what the man in charge of ASD says.
Just yesterday, the Anchorage School Board heard the proposal for one of the largest budget cuts in years. And today I spoke with the superintendent who went into detail on why those proposed cuts were made, which includes staffing reductions across all grade levels, leading to an increase in classroom sizes. Also on the chopping block, middle school sports, as well as high school hockey, swim and dive, and gymnastics. He says the reason for the proposed cuts come down to a lack of state funding for K through 12 school districts, which hasn't increased in 8 years.
ASD is committed to making sensible, reasonable cost of living adjustments. They're typically between 1% and 3%, but over 10 years, that adds up. And a lack of willingness to solve the root cause, which is a lack of an inflation adjustment for the base student allocation, is hurting not just ASD, but essentially any district that you can name statewide.
In the past, the state has given one-time payments to support schools. But because of the state's timeline, Superintendent Bryant says those payments aren't announced until after ASD has already passed their budget, which means it's not something that they can budget for. I'll have more for you on the late edition. Joe Allgood, Alaska's news source.
And his full conversation is on our podcast, In Depth Alaska. 3 Fairbanks schools will close at the end of this school year. It was a 5-2 vote by the school board last night. The list includes Pearl Creek, Midnight Sun, and 2 Rivers schools. The district needs to overcome a $16 million deficit. Hunter and Salcha Elementary were on the closure list, but were spared at the last minute. Well, today, the first national protest against President Donald Trump's administration and his policies. Thousands of people took part in the 50-51 protests. It stands for 50 states, 50 protests, 1 day. Protesters were for people who disagree with Trump's plans on human rights and immigration.
There's a lot of reasons that people are out here. Mainly we're protesting Project 2025, as well as the policies that come from that, and the severe overreach of Elon Musk and his Doge department.
Now, Project 2025 critics say that federal policy agenda is too radical and it restructures the executive branch of the government. The Dodge Department stands for the Department of Government Efficiency, which is being led by billionaire Elon Musk. Now, this week, Musk gained access to federal payment systems in the U.S. Treasury. President Trump says Musk still has to run actions by him first and continues to defend his decisions.
He's done a great job. Look at all the fraud that he's found in this U.S. AID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics.
The president's rapid response team says opponents shouldn't be upset with the Trump administration funneling funds into what they call national interests instead of things like DEI, LGBTQ activism, and helping foreign countries. The protests also happening in Anchorage in Alaska. Georgina Fernandez has the story.
Stop the coup!
That was the protest call.
Stop the coup!
Outside Alaska, Senators Lisa Murkowski and Dan Sullivan's Anchorage office.
Whatever you do, keep moving forward!
Protesters from Anchorage to Juneau voicing concerns for those across the country over President Trump's policies. In their view, Elon Musk is an unelected billionaire making political decisions.
You've got to help. You are in more of a position of power than we are, and we need help now.
Voices like that, 1,600 calls each minute. Senator Murkowski said in a social media statement had inundated the Senate phone system.
One of those protests regarding President Trump's policies and Elon Musk's role in government taking place here in downtown Anchorage. And with so many federal workers in the state, these demonstrators tell us their message is that they stand beside these workers.
My parents are federal employees. I don't think it's right what's happening.
Alaska's news source attempted to reach Alaska's delegation for comment on Musk's role in the Trump administration. All responded with statements, Senator Murkowski saying, while government efficiency should be a goal, quote, how we achieve it also matters. Senator Sullivan's spokesperson only saying he supports protesters' First Amendment rights, but they did not answer our question about Musk.
I'm really scared for what the future holds if Congress doesn't get power back away from this non-elected official.
Back in Anchorage,
I think Congress needs to do something to rein power back in.
These protesters say they want more than words and to see lawmakers act. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
Still ahead, the competition at the Yukon Quest, Alaska, now cut down. Why the well-known Mackeys decided to put a stop to this year's journey. Plus, simulating combat in the Arctic, where a special exercise was just held, and how it improves effectiveness.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
A military exercise focused on simulating combat in the Arctic was recently conducted just south of Delta Junction. From medevac rehearsals to 40 below temperatures, soldiers from across the world tested their skills. Adrian Peterson has the story.
Around 10,000 troops engaged in the Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Center exercise at the end of January. Units from multiple branches as well as the Mongolian and Canadian armed forces tested their capability in the Donnelly training area where temperatures fell to 40 below with chill winds.
If you can do your job in the most extreme environment that the U.S. Army trains in, then you can do your job anywhere.
That task comes with unique challenges in the Arctic environment, however, such as dropping into multiple feet of snow at night. Davis says it speaks to the grit and mentality the soldiers carry.
To go out there in those extreme conditions, changing 50, 60, 70 degrees throughout a 10-day period and still survive and show how lethal they are as a cohesive unit.
That lethality is also backed by preparations such as the medevac rehearsal carried out before the exercise.
Safety is a top priority anytime you do a field training exercise, and that's critical to any of the rehearsals. It's not the only one we do, but it is the most important because nothing is more important than soldier safety.
Davis says the troops involved were able to learn what they can and cannot do in the extremes of the Arctic and how to best navigate those conditions. Adrian Peterson, Alaska's news source.
Today is day 5 of the Yukon Quest Alaska. The race preserves the history of long-distance dog mushing. John Thompson brings us up to date and tells us about 2 mushers with a famous last name that had to scratch.
Day 5 of the Yukon Quest Alaska race, and 6 mushers are inching closer to the finish line in Tok. Now, that number has dropped from day 4's 8 mushers. That's because 2 had to scratch in circle on Tuesday. This is footage captured in circle of the father-son duo of Jason and Patrick Mackey, who decided to scratch in the best interest of their teams, experiencing what they called, quote, Shaktoolik-level winds, unquote, on the Yukon River.
So the Mackeys looks like they left just after midnight out of circle yesterday morning, and they maybe got between 20 and 30 miles outside of circle, hunkered down. Our trail crew just went to check on them because they were kind of hanging out for so long, and they decided to make the decision to come back to circle and scratch themselves. Everybody is safe and happy and healthy and good to go now.
Jeff Dieter has been leading over the past few days, traveling about 6 miles per hour on the trail from Eagle to Chicken currently. This is footage of Dieter pulling into the Eagle checkpoint Tuesday night around 7 p.m. There's a mandatory 8-hour rest in Eagle. Dieter's wife, Katie Jo, says she hasn't spoken to Jeff too much, but she did hear from him on Tuesday night.
He had just eaten and was getting ready to lay down and rest. And he just sent me a couple text messages to say that everything was good and the team looked great. But he told me before he left on this race that he wasn't going to spend a lot of time riding home. And that's okay. In my experience with him, no news is good news. I don't usually want to hear from him when he's out there.
Now, the next checkpoint after Eagle is Chicken, and once teams reach Chicken, there's a mandatory 6-hour layover before they can head to the finish line, 80 miles to Tok. John Thompson, Alaska's news source.
And here's that current standings for the 550 race as of 6 p.m. Dieter is pulling ahead. The first 5 teams have already passed the Eagle checkpoint and are headed to Eagle.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.